So that's why I'm studying the foundations. I'm muting my mic.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, students. This is Sir Shaikh Abdul Basit, faculty of F1 BT of ACCA examination. First, I would like to introduce myself, and then we'll move on to the ACCA paper BT, Business and Technology. I'm an ACCA member. Along with that, I'm an ICAW finalist with 4 years of corporate experience and 5 years of teaching. So I have taught this paper multiple times. I have taught this paper to multiple students across the borders multiple times. So therefore, it's an opportunity for me to teach all of you this kind of exam, right? Now, let's move on to the F1 Business and Technology exam, right? Business and Technology exam. Now, what's this? Basically, today is the demo session for this, and what I'm doing is I'm recording this demo for all of you, so you guys can just look into it, go for this exam with me, or you can just know what this exam demands from us, right? If I would just rate this exam, so it's one of the easiest exam, right? If I would rate this exam, so it's one of the easiest exam. Why? Because it contains only theoretical aspects. This F1 BT exam contains only theories and only the theoretical skills which are required, right? I would rate this exam as an easiest exam. Why, sir? Why would you rate this exam as an easiest exam? Because it contains only theoretical skills, right? Only theoretical skills, and not just theoretical skills. It asks you to analyze a scenario and go for the right option. You don't need a calculator in this question, right? You don't need a calculator in this particular paper. You don't need a time to calculate the figures and facts which you guys have done in FMA or FFA exam. This is simply a BT exam, which is business and technology, right? This is simply a BT exam, which is business and technology. So you don't need that kind of a stuff here, right? Sir, what we are going to study in this particular exam, what we are going to learn, what we are going to study here. So if I just constitute an ACCA hierarchy with you, if you can understand that, as a student comes from FIA, right? As a student comes from FIA, they do FA1, MA1, right? They do FA2, MA2, and they do F3 or F2, which is known as FFA and FMA. And then there's one exam which is known as F1, which is also known as BT, right? Which we are going to study. If you see the hierarchy of ACCA, after F3 in ACCA, what's that? After F3 in ACCA, there is F7 or FR, which you are going to study. And similarly, after F2, there is F5 or PM, which you are going to study, right? Then there is SBR. Then there is F9, FM. Then there is AFM and APM. So there are there are chains, like the costing and management accounting starts from MA1, then it go to MA2, then it go to MA, PM, FM, and similarly the financial accounting goes like this. These are the papers. But in F1, the next paper which you are going to study is SBL. And in fact, F1s and SBL paper is totally similar. the questions are basically much detailed in SBL and less detailed in F1. In SBL and in F1, majorly the course is same. So what's the difference in these two exams? This is less detailed. in this exam, this is MCQ, whereas this is much detailed, right? This is much detailed, and it's not MCQ. It's a descriptive paper in which you have to describe the scenario, right? In which you have to describe the scenario. So if you are studying F2, the next paper in which the similar topics would be revised is F5, then F9, then AFM, then APM, right? APM, it's APM. But in F1, there is no similar paper of its kind. It's just F1 and then SBL. These are the two papers which are in line. The first paper of the ACCA and the first paper of the professional modules. So F1 is an important exam. Why? Because it's completely tested again in SBL, but in a major description way, in a major descriptive way, right? If everything is clear, you can use the chat box and write there that everything is clear, sir, and you can go ahead, right? So this was just a basic intro of SB F1, right? Now, sir, what are the chapters which we are going to learn in this particular exam? The chapters in which this is, I'm saying it again, that this is descriptive, this is a theoretical based exam. In this exam, you don't need calculator. In this exam, you don't need any sort of time to calculate things and figures. You just read the question and the answer should be known. You just need to read the question and the answer should be known. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. It would take many of my students who go for attempting this exam have just clear this in 40 or 50 minutes. You guys have 2 hours, right? But many of the students clear this in 40 or 50 minutes. Why clear this in 40 or 50 minutes? Because it takes less time, because you don't need to calculate here anything. You don't need to do the sums and all that. You just read the question and the answer should be in your mind. There are 2 possible scenarios. You know the answer, you don't know the answer. Nothing less, nothing more, right? So what are the chapters which we are going to study here? We are going to study the business organization, in which you'll get understanding of business, right? In this chapter, you'll get understanding of business, the business organization and structure, how businesses operates. I guess you guys know a bit of it. The structure can be sole trader, the structure can be partnership, the structure can be a limited liability company, the structure can be 2-way, 3-way partnership. So these are different types of structures of an organization which you are going to study in these chapters, right? Then the culture in organization, it also matters. Do you know what's culture? Culture is basically the way we do things around here. And if I usually tell my students that it's a paper of giving you a corporate knowledge. When you go for an interview, or when you go for joining in a job, they don't ask you to calculate the costing. They don't ask you to calculate. They just ask you about, if you're coming from any other entity, what was the culture there? How do they do things there? What you expect from us? So this is kind of a corporate paper which gives you an knowledge of corporates, and which gives you a knowledge of each and everything, right? So now, in organizational culture and businesses, we'll learn different types of businesses. We'll learn different type of culture, how what a culture impacts on a person. If I'm working in one of the multinational company, so if I'm working there, what sort of culture attracts me to work here, and what sort of culture attracts me to avoid going elsewhere, right? If you want to be successful, you need to operate in a good culture. You need to operate in an organization in which a good culture exists. If the culture is not good, you cannot be able to succeed. In fact, you cannot be able to work, right? So in culture, we'll understand different sort of cultures with that. And I guess you're new to ACCA. I am an old one. I am an old bucket of ACCA, right? In ACCA, there was less, you kind of say, a less attraction towards technology, but slowly and steadily, ACCA have developed it. Slowly and steadily, ACCA have developed its intentions to cascade technology in every one of exam. In ACCA, there is technology much more significant than any other qualification. They have implemented technological chapters in every of exam. In each of exam, you go for F5. Basically, I teach F5 and SBL2. So there are technological aspects being tested there. So ACCA wants student to be technologically updated, right? So information technology and information security system, it's also a chapter involved here. Then we have stakeholders, right? Then we have stakeholders in business organization. I guess you know stakeholders. What are stakeholders? Stakeholders are basically the person or the people who get impacted by organization acts, or who can impact the organization. Like for an organization, a government is a stakeholder, an employee is a stakeholder. Well, this is a brief review of all chapters, and we'll discuss these things in detail in all chapters, right? Then we'll have external analysis of political, legal, economic, social, and environmental and technological factors. These are 3 chapters consisting the similar thing. Basically, it's one model which you need to study. It's one model which you need to study, and that's PEST, right? It's one model which you need to study, that's PEST: political, economical, social, technological, ecological, and legal. The pestle model which you need to study in these chapters. This chapter is a significant worthing for a student. This carries a significant worth for the student. Why, sir? Why this chapter carries a significant worth? Because in Pakistan, if I would say, there are very adverse consequences in our currency, in our we could say the economic trends are adverse, are against Pakistan. The dollar rate is high, the inflation is high, and everything is going. So any of a person who wants to understand the reasons, they need to know these factors. If you want to analyze a country's economy, a country's stability, a country's growth prospects, you need to do the pestle analysis there. You need to understand the political factors there. You need to understand the economical factors there. You need to understand the social, you need to understand the technological, ecological, and legal factors there to understand or to expect that whether we should go there or not, right? If you are a multinational billionaire and want to open a company in Pakistan, you need to do the pestle analysis in Pakistan to identify a feasibility, right? So these 3 chapters contains the pestle analysis, and these are very good chapters, as they can be tested in any of the exam. If you do AFM, if you do SBL, if you do AAA, there are different topics being tested from these chapters, right? So it's one of the important chapters, right? Then we have competitive factors, in which we read Porter 5 forces. I guess you know Porter 5 forces. In competitive factors, we read Porter 5 forces. Then we have professional ethics. Ethics is basically a major part of a person, of an accountant. And if you know, ethics is included in every ACCA exam, right? Ethics is included in every ACCA exam. So ethics is totally included in every ACCA exam. Then we read governance and social responsibility, in which what are social responsibilities of an organization. Although they exist for the profits, we know, but there are certain social responsibilities of an organization also, right? Then we have law and regulations governing accounting for finance functions. Basically, this is a chapter which we have already done in F3. If you have done FFA, these chapters are already covered there, right? FFA, these chapters are already covered there. But since if you have not done FFA, I'll teach you, no worries. I'll teach you these exams, no worries about that, right? Then we have audit and financial control. Then we have fraud and fraudulent behavior. These are the chapters which we need to study. Leadership, management, recruitment and selection, how people get inducted in organization. Basically, if you want to do jobs, so you should know that how to get inducted in organization, individuals, groups and team behaviors, motivating individuals and groups, learning and training at work, review appraisal of individual performance. These are all sort of chapters which we'll study. And then we have personal effectiveness and communicating in business. So a total of, if we guys know, so a total of 25 chapters needs to be studied, right? A total of 25 chapters needs to be done. A maximum of, we could say, 50 classes for doing this chapter, a maximum of 45 to 50 classes for doing this chapter, right? Right, 45 to 50 classes. But one thing which I wanted to add here, that I just do not offer classes, right? That I just do not offer classes. What do I offer is something different. What do I offer to students is something different. Right? Sir, what exactly do you offer? If I can say, what exactly do you offer? What I prefer to student is, Kareem, that if a student is doing chapters with me, if you have covered one chapter, right? If you have covered one chapter, then what you need to do, you need to do the kit of that chapter also, right? Kit of that chapter also. Means if we have covered, example, if we have covered business organization, like we did two classes, two very wealthy classes, and we have covered the business organization, then what we are going to we are going to solve kit of it, right? We are going to solve kit of it, BPP and Kaplan also, right? So that's how your this chapter will be locked. Like, you know exactly this chapter, right? So that's how your this chapter is done and dusted, is locked, right? So how we are going to move forward? We are going to move forward a chapter by chapter. Once we have done the chapter, we will surely move on to a kit. Like, we could agree that, sir, you should solve me answers of Kaplan and I'll do the BBP by myself. You should solve the answers of Kaplan, I'll do BBP by myself. You could ask that and we could do that. Okay, sir, then what's the material required? The next thing is here, which should be known as the material which is required, right? The material which is required and which needs to be at that. See, F1 is a descriptive paper which contains around 900 to 1000 pages book. I do not suggest student to buy that book. What I have done, what your tutor has done is that I have comprehend, right? I have comprehend version, or we could say the shorter version of F1, like BT, and that version is my book, SAB's book of F1, right? And what this what this book includes, it includes practice questions as well, right? It includes practice questions of BT as well. Like, if I can just show you, you'll be really pleased to see this. It's my first chapter, right? It's my first chapter, which is a shorter version. And see, after this chapter, there's second chapter, and there are a number of chapters here. And then at last, what I have done, yeah, see, At last, what I have done, this is my last chapter, last reading chapter, right? And after this, after the 25th chapter, again the index came, and then here we have practice questions of this chapter. So every chapter which we have studied are there are number of questions which I have added for these chapters. So if you have done with this chapter, we can solve these questions too, to understand that whether we know the exactly same thing which examiner demands. Like it's being a test. Like if I have taught you a chapter, and then you'll move on to these questions, and we'll assess ourselves that whether we know these or not, right? And then I have attached the answers of these also, so you can check your results, right? Similarly, the chapter 2, business organizations, here's the practice question, and then you can check your answer, right? So this is a complete summary of F1 from myself. Now, what what I need to know is that, is there, first tell me, is there any question regarding F1, and then we could discuss the timings and the slots available and how to read this. You can unmute your mic, and if there is any question, you can ask.